I hid my $5 billion NFT empire from my family for 15 years. Here's how they reacted. I kept the fact that I had built $1 billion NFT empire hidden from my family for 15 years. They thought I was a failure, and I let them. Every year, I'd get an invitation to the Sullivan family reunion, and this year was no different. The morning light filtering through my penthouse windows caught the gold embossed lettering on the invite. I knew the truth was about to come out. It wasn't even my choice. The email that sparked everything was from Forbes, announcing that I was part of their 30 under 40 list. The subject line read, "The new face of digital art, Sophia Sullivan's NFT empire now worth $3.8 billion. It was going live tomorrow, 2 days before the reunion. I read it over again, realizing that there was no stopping the facade I had carefully maintained for all these years from crashing down. My assistant buzzed in over the intercom. "Miss Sullivan, your brother Marcus is on the line again. He'd been calling nonstop since the press release went out to major publications." I sighed and picked up the phone. "Hello, Marcus," I said, keeping it cool. Without even greeting me, he snapped. "What the hell, Sophia? I just got a call from Business Insider asking about my billionaire sister. Care to explain?" I leaned back in my chair, watching the Manhattan skyline from my window. "Guess you'll have to wait for the article like everyone else." "Cut the crap," he barked. "For years you've let us think you were barely getting by. Mom and Dad have been worried sick about you." I couldn't help but laugh. "Worried? Huh? You mean with all those lectures about getting a real job? Or the constant comments about how I was wasting my potential?" "They weren't worried, Marcus. They were trying to control me, just like they tried with you. And you let them." There was silence on the other end. Marcus had always been the golden child, going to business school, getting his MBA, and working for our father's investment firm. He stuck to the plan, the one they all wanted. After a moment, he spoke again. "Just tell me one thing. How long have you been hiding this from us?" I stood and walked over to the window, watching one of my helicopters land on the building next door. It was one of 3 I owned. Remember when I moved to that tiny apartment in Brooklyn? That was 15 years ago. Everyone thought I was crazy for throwing away my finance degree to mess around with digital art. Well, what you didn't know was that I sold my first NFT collection for $50,000 back then. $50,000? Back then? Marcus asked, stunned. That was just the beginning. 6 months later, I sold another one for $200,000. By the time Dad was telling everyone at Christmas dinner that I was going through a phase, I had already made my first $1 million. I could hear him trying to wrap his head around it. "But you still borrowed money from Mom and Dad for rent. You drove that beat-up car until last year." "I never borrowed money from them, Marcus," I corrected him. "I asked them to invest in my company. They refused. The old Honda wasn't a necessity, it was a choice. Just like this penthouse and the private jet. Everything I've got, I built from the ground up. I kept all of it hidden from you." His voice cracked. "Private jet? Jesus, Sophia. How rich are you?" The memory of our younger sister, Olivia, came rushing back. She used to pick up the check at family dinners, making sure everyone knew how much money she was making. Meanwhile, I was the one treated like the poor relative. It made me smile a little. The Forbes article says $3.8 billion, but that's a conservative estimate. The real number's closer to 5. I could hear him gasping. $5 billion. He stammered. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a board meeting to attend," I said. "Oh, and Marcus, I'll see you at the reunion. I think I'll make an entrance." Before he could say another word, I hung up the phone. I hit the intercom. "Sarah, is everything set for the reunion?" "Yes, Miss Sullivan," she replied. "The jet's fueled and ready. Car service is arranged for everyone, with Rolls-Royces to pick them up. The venue's been updated to the private island, as requested, and the NDAs for all staff are prepared." "Perfect," I said, grabbing the reunion invitation from my desk. For 15 years, I'd played the role they expected of me, the struggling artist who couldn't keep it together. They always patted me on the head and reminded me about financial responsibility. But not this time. I was done pretending. Olivia had texted me, "OMG, please tell me this Forbes thing is a joke. What's going on?" I didn't respond. Olivia was always the one at family get-togethers bragging about her 6-figure salary, acting like she was the only one who had it together. She had no idea what was really going on with me. The intercom buzzed again. "Miss Sullivan, your parents are on the line." I checked my watch. "Tell them I'm in a meeting," I said. "And Sarah, call the helipad." I think I'll take the helicopter to the board meeting today. As I prepared for the reunion, my thoughts drifted back to the moment everything changed. It had been 15 years since I'd gathered my things and left home, after my father's voice boomed across the dinner table, calling my digital art a fad. I had just graduated from college and tried to explain to my family what I was doing, but they didn't get it. My dad wanted me to work at his company, the one they'd funded my finance degree for. I tried to tell them I sold my first collection for $50,000, but Dad cut me off. I don't want to hear about your little hobby. Either come work for the firm or you're on your own. No more support. My mother had patted my hand with that same patronizing tone. Sweetie, we just want what's best for you. You need a real career. I looked around the table at the expressions of disbelief. Marcus was smirking, Olivia was looking down on me, and my parents were genuinely disappointed. That was when I made up my mind. I would keep my success a secret. I would hide the $50,000 sale, the galleries that wanted to represent me, and the tech companies reaching out for joint ventures. I would let them think I was failing while I built my empire in silence. I need to figure this out on my own, I said, standing up from the table. I moved into the smallest, cheapest apartment I could find in Brooklyn. 2 weeks later, they all believed I was struggling and too proud to admit it. Meanwhile, I was building something no one could have imagined. The first year was a grind, 18-hour workdays. But I kept at it, learning the ins and outs of blockchain and NFTs, creating art, and connecting with people in the digital art community. My first collection, Digital Dreams and Binary, sold out in hours and made me $1.2 million. I reinvested that into building my company, hiring developers, and creating new platforms for artists. But when I went home, I played the part of the struggling artist, driving my old Honda and keeping up the act for my family. Every time my mom would offer to help with rent, I'd turn her down. I'm fine, Mom. They all still saw me as the idealistic girl who couldn't face reality, even though my net worth was climbing. By year 3, it hit $100 million. Now, as I climbed into my own helicopter, I realized how much more complicated things had become than I ever expected. The small lie I told had grown into a massive secret, and everything was about to change in 2 days. My phone buzzed again. It was my dad's message. We need to talk. Now, grinning to myself, I hung up. The reunion was going to be their wake-up call. For 15 years, they'd only heard about my failures. Now, it was time for them to hear about my success. I wanted to make sure they would never forget it. At exactly 6 a.m. Eastern Time, the Forbes article went live. As the chaos unfolded on my screens, I was already awake, sipping coffee in my home office. The headline read, Digital Art Revolutionary, How Sophia Sullivan Built a Multi-Billion-Dollar Empire in Secret. It included a photo of me in front of my most successful NFT collection, dressed in clothes worth more than Olivia's entire salary. The article revealed all the accomplishments I had kept hidden for 15 years. My phone started buzzing with notifications. The family group chat was the first to blow up. Olivia texted, "Is this for real? $3.8 billion? Marcus replied, "I tried to warn you all yesterday." Mom texted, "Sophia, please answer your phone." Dad followed, "This must be some kind of mistake." And Aunt Patricia chimed in, "So proud of our Sophia." I shut the conversation down and opened my emails. Hundreds of requests from news outlets, investment offers, and speaking engagements were flooding in. One email from my dad's business partner, Albert Chin, caught my eye. 3 years ago, I had asked them for a partnership. Albert had turned me away, saying they didn't deal in internet pictures. "Miss Sullivan, your mother is in the lobby. She's quite insistent," came the intercom. I sighed and hit the button. Let her up. I'd struggled. We all saw it, the tiny apartment, the old car. But I never borrowed money for rent. I refute that. I didn't ask for handouts. I asked you and Dad to invest in my company. That's where we differ. The apartment, the car, it was all just theater. Theater to make you think I was failing when I was actually building something real. "You've been lying to us for 15 years, she said. "No, Mom. I just let you see what you wanted to see. You were so convinced I was failing that you never bothered to look closer." She slumped into one of my Italian leather chairs, looking older somehow. "Does anyone else in the family know?" she asked. "No one," I said. "Well, Marcus found out yesterday when the press release went out. I suppose he tried to warn you." She nodded weakly, her face unreadable. "He called, but your father was sure it was a mistake. Some other Sophia Sullivan." I went to my desk and grabbed a file. "Here's something you might be interested in, Mom." I handed it to her, watching her hands tremble as she took it. "This is the investment opportunity one tried to present to Dad 3 years ago. If he had invested the $1 million I asked for, His share would be worth about $100 million today. She stared at the file, eyes widening. He's always said you wanted a handout, that you were too proud to admit your art wasn't working out. I snorted, shaking my head. You believed him, just like you believed him about my struggling artist's life. Tell me, Mom, in 15 years, did you ever actually come to one of my shows? Check out my work? Google my name? She couldn't meet my eyes. That's what I thought. I turned to the window and gazed down at the city I now partly controlled. The annual family reunion is in 2 days, I said, and I've made some changes to the arrangements. I bought out the whole resort where it was supposed to be held. Too public. Instead, everyone will be picked up by my private cars and flown out to my island in the Caribbean. She blinked. Your island? Yeah. I bought it last year when I closed my first billion-dollar deal. I turned to her with a grin. This time, Mom, I won't be the one sitting quietly while everyone talks about their successes. I've got some things to say. She straightened her skirt, hands shaking, as she stood. When your father sees all this, he'll have to admit that his little girl, playing with computer pictures, built something bigger than his entire family legacy. I chuckled. And that's just the beginning. Before she could leave, I added one more thing. Oh, and Mom, that Bentley you've been dreaming about that Dad says is too expensive? I bought 3 of them last month, just because I could. Her face twisted in shock as the elevator doors closed. I contacted my assistant the moment she left. Sarah, is everything ready for the reunion? Yes, Miss Sullivan, came the reply. The island staff is prepared. We've assembled documentation packages for each family member showing exactly when they dismissed your investment opportunities and what those shares would be worth today. The video presentation of your success timeline is also ready. Perfect. I took out my phone and sent a single message in the family group chat. Looking forward to seeing everyone at the reunion. Dress appropriately for a private island. Transportation will be provided. The Forbes article had already caused my stock to rise overnight. By breakfast, my net worth had shot up by another $1 billion. I imagined my father, sitting in his office, trying to wrap his head around how his failing daughter had become one of the wealthiest people in the country. I thought about Olivia, too, boasting about her 6-figure salary and her vacation home in the Hamptons. I could buy her a lifetime with the interest I earned every day. The reunion was going to be interesting. My phone buzzed again. It was a message from my dad. We need to meet before the reunion. Family matters should be discussed privately. I replied, everything will be discussed at the reunion, Dad. After all, isn't that what family reunions are for? Sharing our successes. I called Sarah again. Contact the design team. I want the helipad repainted before the reunion. Make sure my name is visible from the air when they land. Already done, Miss Sullivan. Anything else? Make sure the Forbes article is framed and hung in every room of the island resort. I want it to be the first thing they see, no matter where they turn. I gazed at my reflection in the window as I hung up. Prosperous. Strong. At last, prepared to show my family who I'd become while they were busy questioning me. The reunion countdown had begun. Sophia's reveal. A family's journey from doubt to acceptance. Sophia had spent years building her empire, all while her family doubted her every move. As the years passed, she endured criticism, condescension, and outright dismissal from her parents and siblings. They believed she was a failure, chasing dreams that would never pay off. But Sophia had a different vision, a vision that would change not only her life, but also the way her family saw her. Sophia's mother arrived at her sleek new office, visibly shocked. She couldn't quite wrap her head around the success her daughter had achieved. Everything was just theater, Sophia remarked, recounting how she had let her family believe she was struggling, living in a tiny apartment, driving an old car, borrowing money for rent. In reality, she had been building something much bigger. I never borrowed money, Sophia continued. I asked you and Dad to invest in my company. That's the difference. You never bothered to look closer. You were so convinced I was failing that you never bothered to check. Her mother was taken aback. She hadn't seen what Sophia had been hiding all along, the thriving digital art empire, the company that was now worth billions. Sophia's next words cut deeper. Do you know what the hardest part was? Not the secrecy, not pretending to struggle. It was watching all of you celebrate mediocrity while dismissing true innovation. Sophia had played along for years, pretending to be the family's failure while quietly building a legacy. But now, it was her time to shine. Her plans for the upcoming family reunion were set. a private island, her jet, and a grand reveal that would finally make her family see the truth. The day of the reunion arrived, and Sophia's family arrived at the private airstrip. The Rolls-Royces pulled up, and her father stepped out, his authority already weakening in the presence of Sophia's wealth and success. Her private jet, emblazoned with Sullivan Digital Empire, stood as a testament to her hard work. As they boarded the jet, her father grumbled, "This is unnecessary. We could have had the reunion at the resort." Sophia smiled, unbothered. The resort was too public. This time, it's family bonding on my island. The island was breathtaking luxury at every turn. Screens on the helipad displayed her digital art, with prices to match. As they disembarked, Sophia proudly declared, "Welcome to Sullivan Island, my own little piece of paradise." At dinner, the tension was palpable. The walls were adorned with framed articles, including a feature in Forbes, showcasing Sophia's remarkable success. As her family absorbed the magnitude of her achievements, Sophia showed them a visual timeline of her journey. Each rejection, each dismissal, had only fueled her ambition to prove them wrong. Her father, struggling to find the words, finally said, "We were wrong." Sophia's response was simple, "I didn't do this for your approval. I did it because it was my dream, my vision." The following morning, Sophia found a note from her father hidden behind her door. "I was wrong. You didn't just succeed, you revolutionized an entire industry." With a quiet smile, Sophia framed the note next to her first NFT sale receipt. She had done it, not for their approval, but for herself. As the family gathered for breakfast, Sophia realized something important. Sometimes, proving yourself correct is just as important as proving others wrong. The sweetest victory comes when you've built something remarkable while everyone doubted you. Sophia's story was now complete, and the world would see it unfold in real time. No more pretending. No more concealing. The Sullivan family would never be the same again. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories.